Thank you everybody for tuning into this video. My name is Z if you are new to this channel, and as the title of the video states, we will be doing a part 2 video for Janet Light. Essentially what we have found out so far with Janet is what we're going to be covering in this video. So the skill behaviors mostly around the questions revolving with her second skill, Frantic Graffiti, or Inspiration Spray after she is awakened. The behavior of the AoE on this skill, how it triggers, that kind of a thing. I essentially wanted to start off this video by saying that we had a part 1 video, and I cover a lot of things in that video as well, which you'll be able to find in the description or a pinned comment down below on this video. However, the analysis that we had with that came prior to her being released, and we did not know everything about her skill behaviors or what to expect, but we were pretty spot on. Based on the analysis of what we had and what I expected the skill to do, we've pretty much nailed it on the head. The skill acted exactly as the way I assumed it would. In fact, it's actually performing better than that because there are a few factors that I really didn't take into account basically with like Rubina, for example. There's one open-ended question that I had, and some other ways that would actually trigger this that, again, I didn't really consider in the first place. So let's just dive straight in, talk about what it is that we have discovered and what that means for you. My TLDR on this is for those that don't want to see the full analysis, but basically just want to be like, Z, should I get her, yes or no? We have gone from a yes to an absolute yes. She, again, performs much better than I initially thought that she would, and the behavior around this skill is actually quite phenomenal. So, again, let's dive straight in. Before we go into the full analysis, let's just quickly cover the skill that we're looking at here first and foremost, and why we're looking at it, and how that'll be covered. So, again, we're looking primarily at Frantic Graffiti, where you enter the state for 5 seconds, or you enter the graffiti state for 5 seconds before the leader uses a rage skill. While in this state, each time skill damage is dealt, there is a 65% chance to deal additional damage to the current target of this damage factor here. This additional damage will not trigger graffiti again, and the state will expire after being triggered 5 times. Now, after you get her awakened, this transforms then into Inspiration Spray, where it's the same thing. You enter the state for 5 seconds, but you go from a 65% chance to deal the skill damage each time the skill damage is dealt to 100%. And on top of that, you will also deal AoE damage to up to 2 additional nearby characters for 1200 damage factor. Same thing, this additional damage will not trigger graffiti again, and the state will expire after being triggered 5 times. So I have had I've tested it myself, and with Inspiration Spray itself, I also have members of my own that have had the chance or the opportunity to awaken her already, and test it in Pompeii and other ways and means, and let's just dive straight into those. So before going into the new discovery pieces, let's reinforce the things that we have talked about in the last video, which is primarily like who should you pair her with, which would be Elena, which would be May, which would be Felix, which would be Rick, anybody that does and Rubina incremental skill damage repeatedly within a 5-second window, because you are in a graffiti state for 5 seconds and you want to get as many of those 5 procs basically the graffiti allows in 5 seconds. You want to proc those off within that time frame. You don't want to let any stacks go to waste or just run out and such. So as expected, and again the TLDR here is that it is working as intended. I had Chase test it with Felix, I had Chase test it with May, I had Chase test it with Elena, and let's just kind of take a look at that and show you how it appears in the report. One thing that I do want to note here is that you will see that he targeted a level 7 hive mind, and yet it hit a nearby zombie. What that means when just looking at it at face value is that they are being hit by Inspiration Spray, which this one got hit 9 times, it looks like. And essentially what's happening here is that his Janet is awakened, and so it's dealing that AoE damage when it's doing the additional attacks. So we can kind of see that in here where Inspiration Spray was triggered, and it killed some of the zombies that were nearby to the hive mind itself. So that's a first confirmation. The skill is actually working as intended. It is working properly. It is hitting nearby marches and everything, and that we can see that here with Elena. So with Elena, how is that appearing in the actual reports themselves? Well, what's happening is that Elena is triggering Enforced Justice at 10 seconds, and then here with Inspiration Spray, you'll see it trigger. Let's go down here. So Inspiration Spray is triggered first and foremost. As I mentioned in my first video, Janet will basically go, hey, are we in a graffiti state currently? If not, let's put you in one. So Janet steps up to the plate with her second skill, says, hey, you're triggering your rage skill, Elena. Let's put you in a graffiti state. Elena says, great. I'm going to go on ahead and use my rage skill now. And if we come down to seconds 11, 12, and 13, where Elena has the 3-second bleed, you'll see that Janet triggers the inspiration spray here because of the continuous bleed that Elena applies from her enforced justice or her rage skill for 3 seconds. So Elena deals skill damage here from her 3 seconds of continuous bleed. That then triggers Janet because skill damage was dealt, and that triggers inspiration spray. So, and you'll just kind of see that for the next 3 seconds, basically, that's on Elena. Now, that behavior essentially is mimicked or mirrored with the other heroes as well, for heroes like May or for heroes like Felix, where they they put themselves into a damage state and they deal damage every second for a few seconds. So for May, it's for 3 seconds, so you'll see that she deals damage for 3 seconds, and then Inspiration Spray follows up for those 3 seconds as well. If we go over to Felix, right here, similar story here. Felix goes on ahead and uses his Accelerate and Overtake, where basic attacks deal bonus skill damage for the next 5 seconds. And then Inspiration Spray, you can see, just kind of follows up 10, 11, 12, 13, and 15. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So that is how it is happening. Everything is expecting as we initially talked about, initially assumed. It is great. Now let's go into what we've actually discovered. What are some of the new things that we have found out about her? So for one, when you take a look at a hero like Rubina, right? Rubina can deal up to, let's go ahead and put it over here, when transcended, 2 to 6 instances of damage in 1 second. All right, now that's one thing to take note of here. When she uses her rage skill, she does this additional 60% chance to deal bonus damage. All of this bonus damage is dealt in 1 second, right? So when you look at a combat report, you're going to see her trigger this rage skill, deal this damage, and then you're going to see multiple lines, if she procs these, of 2 to 6 additional instances of damage here, of bonus skill damage in that same 1 second, or in that same frame of combat, basically. And what the expected behavior was that I had thought about was, well, that for each of those instances, she's going to go ahead and proc her Graffiti State, or proc the additional damage plus the AoE and such. Now, the one open-ended question that I had going into this was, okay, that's great. She may proc Graffiti and the bonus damage in 1 second, but is there a cap on how many times that AoE may proc? So, like, if I'm a nearby March and I'm not the one that's being targeted by the Rubina directly, but I'm nearby and I get hit by the Graffiti AoE, if Rubina procs that 4, 5, 6 times in 1 second, am I getting hit by all those AoE at once? Or is there a cap that I can only get hit by AoE 1 time per second, right? So we've seen that behavior sometimes with AoE, sometimes where it doesn't, like, they're not even specific with AoE, but with other aspects, where even though an action will happen multiple times in 1 second, there's a cap on how much something can happen in 1 second. And so again, that's kind of where the question came from, was, can that AoE almost essentially machine gun, and can you proc AoE 5 times on a target nearby? And we have an example here from Nikhil, who did this in Pompeii. And what you'll see is that he's hitting this this garrison essentially this whole time, and there are these nearby marches that are also getting hit. So let's take a look at one instance here, right? So if we come to the combat log, and we see when she gets hit by Inspiration Spray, let's go down here to where we see a spike of up to 11. See how it's like killing her a couple times, you know, it ranges from 2,000 to 5,000, that kind of a thing. So in those, we may see that Inspiration Spray hits, let's go down here. Inspiration Spray hits once, twice, 3, 4 times here. So you can see her getting hit by those. And what that does is that, what that proves is that there is no cap on that AoE. So if Rubina procs 5 instances of her additional bonus damage that she's going to deal in 1 second, the AoE is also going to trigger and deal AoE damage every single time. So essentially what happened here is that she just got hit with 4 instances of AoE in 1 second. 4 procs of the Graffiti AoE hit this March in 1 second, which is crazy to me that it works that way, because that is an insane amount of additional damage that's actually being dealt. If it was capped out at 1, that would be understandable. I could see that being, or I could see why they would do that. But the fact that it isn't, and it's not capped, and the AoE is proccing just as it says in the text, means that the damage potential here from Janet is much higher. It's actually quite crazy. So let's look at Crimson Slaughter when this happened, which is Rubina's rage skill. And if we come down here to the 64,000, you'll see, let's see here, quite a bit in this report here. So Janet triggers Inspiration Spray. Rubina uses her rage skill, which deals a flat amount of damage. Janet then procs Graffiti off of that. Rubina then triggers her additional attack once, Inspiration Spray behind it, twice, Inspiration Spray behind it, 3 times, Inspiration Spray behind it, 4 times, Inspiration Spray behind it, 5 times, Inspiration Spray behind it, and then right here, what is that, a 5th time plus Inspiration Spray? So we have how many instances of Inspiration Spray here? Inspiration Spray was triggered, and it triggered and hit once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. This is where I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit, because again, when you read the skill, it says that what should be happening is that after it procs 5 times, the state will expire. But we just saw in this one report that not only is it acting the way that it's supposed to and as intended based on the chat, it's actually overperforming. And this is where I'm kind of scratching my head on this. And this is still one question that's kind of left open for me, because if we go here to the second march, right, that was on the main target. If we go to the second march here and we go to that same instance of when that happened, which again we can see here, we see this 11,000 kills happening. That's quite more than the rest. This is a secondary march that's hitting the rally. Now, mind you, this is not being targeted by Rubina, so this is all AoE. How many times of Inspiration Spray do we see hit this target here? We see it happen up here, and it removes the Janet Light status effect, right? So prior to all this happening down here, she was already in a Graffiti State, and this removed the Graffiti State, probably by being like the last 5th trigger, whatever have you. However, Janet then puts Inspiration Spray back on because Rubina is going back and using her rage skill here. And then this march nearby gets hit again once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. 7 more times we see her get hit, even though according to the skill, it should expire after being triggered 5 times. So I think what's happening here is that we're seeing some instances where if you deal more than 5 instances of skill damage in 1 second, the game doesn't recognize that, and what it does is it just lets you exceed past the 5 times, right? Like this may have hit the cap, and we're at what time is it right now? This is 14 seconds. If we go to 15 seconds, what you'll see is the Inspiration Spray will actually hit 1 more time and then expire. So coming down here, we'll see Inspiration Spray here. It damages them and it removes the effect. So what the game assumes is the last time of the 5 times and then removes the effect. However, again, we see 1 hit here plus the 7 up here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a total of 8 times that it hit within a 2-second margin before it was ever removed. Now, again, I don't know what happened in this instance or case. This is something I'm still looking at. I need additional examples. But what it feels like offhand is, again, if you're using Rubina with her, and you have Rubina Transcended and Awakened, and Rubina deals that additional up to 6 instances of damage in 1 second, which in this case, oh, sorry, we're looking at the secondary march. We have to look at the main rally here, where she can deal up to damage 6 times in 1 second. If you can get it to proc that 6 times, you will get it to actually proc all 6 of those bonus instances of damage, plus 1 more in the next second where it's going to expire, because Janet's going to use her rage skill or whatever have you. Because again, mind you, Rubina uses her rage skill here, deals all these instances of damage, which is this one plus these 6, so a total of 7. And then the next second, Janet is actually going to use her rage skill beyond that. So that, like, again, and I'll show you that 16 seconds here. What procs it the last time is that Janet Light uses her Paint Bomb rage skill. That triggers the Inspiration Spray, and then that's what removes the status altogether. So It's crazy to me that it's actually performing better than expected. Now, is that intended? I'm not sure. Based on the way that the skill is worded, it shouldn't be behaving like that. And this is likely a bug that IGG needs to fix. So I will raise it to their attention to see. Sorry for those of you that wanted to exploit this. If it is working as intended, then congratulations. The skill works better than what it says it's going to do. But if that's a bug, I do have to report it to them and, hopefully have it fixed, because a hero should be working the way it's intended. Now, there are other things that we have discovered about this hero and the way that skill behaves. And let me go on ahead and pull those up real quickly for us. I'm just going to get these on my other screen here, and then I will show you guys what we are looking at. So again, what we've already seen so far is that the second skill is already working better than intended. Now, based on something else that I found, it is also working better than intended, or at least this portion that I'm about to show makes sense. However, it's not something that I considered the first time around, because I had this in the back of my mind, but I didn't actually know if this was going to work this way. So let me show you what we're looking at. Let's go on ahead and close out of this. So what we have here is one instance from a report where Elena's armament skill triggered and killed troops, and we can see immediately after that it triggered inspiration spray as well. So what does that mean? That the skill damage that is needed to trigger inspiration spray or the graffiti additional damage doesn't need to just come from the hero. So you can actually get this from armaments as well. So when taking skill damage, immediately deal damage to the current target. This effect can only be triggered once in 6 seconds. That triggered an inspiration spray as well. Now, where does this come from? This is coming from, not this, but the actual helmet here. Let me go over to it. So when taking skill damage, immediately deal damage to the current target. This effect can be triggered once in 6 seconds. So the rare hone on a helmet can actually trigger the Graffiti State bonus damage, basically, or putting you to deal that additional damage plus the AoE. That can come from the rare hone on the helmets. Where else do we see this? We see this on the rare hone of the EM turret. Basic attacks have a 20% chance to deal additional damage to the current target. This is skill damage also, so that would proc it. And then the other one being the optic camo net, every 10 seconds deals additional damage to the current target, this amount, and heals. So this would also proc it. Now, I do know that there are those merit chests that you get from Apex that have the additional devices that also, I believe, deal bonus skill damage as well. They may or may not. I mean, I just don't remember offhand because I don't have them. But if they do, those would also proc it. But these are just 3 instances that, based on what I have, being the optic camo net, the EM turret, and the rare hone on the helmet, I do know for a fact that these do trigger it, and we've seen it in reports. So that is just something that I wanted to bring to attention as well, because that is also, again, something that increases the effectiveness of Janet and that secondary skill that we're looking at of Frantic Graffiti or Inspiration Spray. So again, if you have made it this far, long story short, I know that this video isn't as long as the first one, but to wrap up everything that we have discussed and kind of summarize it, Inspiration Spray is performing exactly the way that we thought that it would, with the heroes that we thought that it would. It's actually performing better when paired with Rubina. And again, I don't believe that that's actually intended, because you're exceeding the 5 triggers before it takes you out of the state. And so that's kind of going against the verbiage itself. We'll leave it up to IGG to either fix that or leave it as is, because it is intended. As of right now, I would say that that's a bug. But again, I can't say for certainty. We're just going to have to wait for the response. And so it kind of confirms everything that I've thought. Janet is going to be the new secondary pair to Rubina for Rider rallies. And if you are using Janet in the field, you're going to want to pair her behind Felix. You're going to want to pair her behind Elena, behind May, behind Rubina, behind Rick. Any of those heroes that are dealing up to 5 instances of skill damage within a 5-second window or frame. So again, I think I mentioned this in my last video as well. There are other heroes like Jonathan, for example, where outside of their rage skill, they also have a chance to deal skill damage on a basic attack or a counter attack, those types of things. Just bear in mind that those things would also trigger it, but the heroes that I mentioned that you should pair Janet with are going to be your main effectiveness. So that wraps up this video. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything at all, please drop in a comment down below. Let me know how you feel on it. Let me know how, like, what your discoveries have been in your Pompeii that you have played or utilizing her, that kind of a thing. How do you intend on using her? Are you going to be using her with these pairs? Are there any other creative pairs that maybe I've missed? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are closing in on 3K subscribers. We are less than 10 away. I cannot thank you guys enough for that. You guys are amazing. I cannot just fathom the amount of support that you guys have provided to this channel and everything that we do here. But I am glad that that at least the way that we thought that these heroes would intend to work and such, they're working as such there, so we can get that information out to the community. Again, hug a loved one if you haven't already today. Tell someone that you love them. Life is so short, guys. We don't know what'll happen. So if you have the chance to put a smile on someone's face today, go out there and do it. Put some positivity out in the world. Lord knows we need it. So love you guys. See you guys in the next video. Peace.